Welcome back to the channel. My name is Steven. I'm a pharmacist and I own 52 units of real estate. So I got a great question in the comments. Not much information was given, but I'm gonna kind of make the best explanation I can based on the information I have. So this person stated that they own a few single family homes in Philadelphia, and probably has collectively about $500,000 worth of equity. And he's asking, or she's asking, should I sell these properties and then go buy $1 million property in Long Island, New York, or Long Island, Manhattan, one of those two, somewhere in New York? And is this worth it to do that, or is it unreasonable? Is it stupid? And mentioned that he or she is an engineer that makes $8,000 a year. So just thinking out loud, I guess the first thing I'm asking is, are you currently living in Philadelphia? Or are you living in New York? Right? So are you living in New York and maybe you're just, buying real estate in Philadelphia because it's more cost effective compared to New York? Like I've done that quite a bit myself, right? Where I live in California and it's too expensive to buy real estate in California. So I decided to buy like in Alabama. I decided to buy in Oklahoma where it's more affordable. So I'm arbitraging the fact that I make California wages because we get paid more because the cost of living is more. I leverage that by keeping my expenses as high as possible or my income as high as possible and increasing that over time and minimizing my expense as much as I can, right? And then that gap, that difference is what I use to invest out of state in cheaper markets. So I'm gonna go on a limb here and think that you live in New York and you make $8,000 in New York and you bought some rentals in Philadelphia, or maybe you lived in Philadelphia to start off with and you bought some rentals there, built up a nice portfolio, and now maybe you relocate to New York, right? So in either way, would I make that exchange? So for me, the question comes down to it's really the numbers, right? Like I'm assuming, I'm projecting here, if you own your rentals, I'm assuming you're owning it during COVID, so you definitely locked in a low interest rate on these deals. So I'm assuming you're probably around like 4% interest rate or less. And I'm assuming that they're being rented out right now, and I'm assuming that you're cash flowing on these four rentals. Maybe you have a third party management, maybe you're managing yourself, or maybe you have some family nearby that's managing it for you. And I'm gonna go on a limb and guess that maybe you moved to New York, where you're currently living, and you want to maybe buy a house there. So my first question is this house gonna be for yourself to live in, or is it gonna be a rental property? Right? Because those are two completely different mindsets. Buying a house for yourself, it's a little bit more emotional, not as logical, and buying a rental, it's a little bit more logical, right? Less emotions, ideally, if you want a good rental. So, I'm going to say that I'm assuming the Philadelphia real estate, it must be cash flowing positive. You probably locked in a low interest rate. And if you were to sell it and go buy New York, well, you're going to take your equity. You're probably going to do a 1031 exchange, I'm assuming. And you're going to buy a $1 million home in New York. So I don't know how many properties you have in Philadelphia, but if you have three, four, or five, whatever that looks like, when you sell it all, it has to be more. Let's say you sell it off for like $1 million. I'm just making up numbers here. Whatever you buy at 1031 exchange must be more expensive than that. So if your total value of your real estate portfolio in Philadelphia is $1 million, well, you either buy something that's at least $1.1 million or $1,001, right? It just has to be more expensive, right? So if that's the case, then you're taking your $500,000 equity, 1031 exchange this, don't pay any capital gains tax, and put it into another property where you're almost putting, like, if you buy it for $1 million or $1,001, you're almost doing like a 50% down payment. The rest of your loan is going to be probably like 7-8%. And what I would do is, if you want to live in it, I would just buy a rental first, treat it as a rental for, like, have the intent to make it as a rental, maybe rent it out on a short-term basis, and then you yourself can move into it. So that's how you can get your own house, right? But obviously at that point, you're giving up all your cash flow, and you're giving up your leverage on these properties, because right now you have four properties, and if each grows by like 4 or 5%, you're kind of losing that leverage there. So that's just one way I would think about it. Another way I would think about it is, well, if you want to treat it as a rental in Long Island, well, I would look at all the rents you're currently getting for your properties in Philadelphia, and my guess is the rental income you're getting from these multiple properties in Philadelphia, it's probably gonna be more than the rent you're gonna get for one home that you buy for $1 million in New York. So like, case in point, like I have my first single family home. It's probably I bought for 800. It's probably worth close to $1.4 million now. I only get 4,000 bucks in rent on this property, right? But if I were to literally sell this property and 1031 exchange it, and I have like $800,000 of equity, I could probably buy like maybe, geez, that's about $8,000 each. Almost like, let's just say 8 or 9 single family homes in Huntsville, Alabama, brand new builds, right? And each of these would rent out for, let's just call it 2,000 bucks. So I would basically go from like one rental with high equity, getting 4,000 bucks a month, 1031 exchange that, I can get, let's just say 8 of these new builds in Huntsville, Alabama, each rents for 2,000 bucks each. That's 16,000 in rent versus 4,000, right? But the downside is that, well, my Huntsville, Alabama properties are not going to appreciate as fast as my California, right? So this would be more of a cash flow play, right? Where I'm getting cash flow and some appreciation, and then that's improving your return on equity, if that makes sense, because you're leveraging a little bit more, right? Because you use your $800,000 equity as 25% down on 8 different properties, right? So a bank's financing the other 75% of that. So you'd be going in reverse, right? Where you're kind of selling. I'm assuming Philadelphia is cheaper, less appreciation, more cash flow, less appreciation, and trading that to New York, which is more appreciation, less cash flow. So that's kind of, you're going the reverse of like what I'm doing, right? Which is nothing. There's no right or wrong answer, right? Like that's why I do both. Like, for me, I don't like to sell real estate unless I have to. So for me, like if you want to buy real estate in New York, like, and you live in New York, I would find a way to just buy it yourself, right? Like, maybe at $8,000 a year, $1 million house, 8% interest, it may be hard to qualify yourself. So I would find a way to increase your income over time. And, I'm assuming you're not, I mean, it's hard for me to believe that an engineer in New York is about 8,000. I feel like it's gonna be a little higher than that, right? Given the cost of living and given the rent. I don't really know much about New York, but just I imagine it to be like California, or more expensive than California. And most people starting here are at least minimum like 6 figures, right? And because of the higher cost of living. So I would find a way where don't sell the rentals and buy the other rental in New York, because I've always done that. I've never sold except my mobile home park because I just didn't want to do that anymore, right? And I was losing money, bad management, so I just want to get out of it. So for me, I don't like to personally sell, even though you look at the numbers. Like you said, I could literally sell a single family home, 1031 exchange the 8 rentals, and go, or 1031 exchange and buy like 8 rentals that give me more money. Or I could 1031 exchange that $800,000 and use it as like a 25-30% down on a $2.4 million apartment complex that maybe gets me like $30,000-$40,000 in gross rental income, right? So that seems more worthwhile for me. But that's how you kind of slowly trade up, right? So like, I'm still debating what to do. Obviously it is a right deal. I probably will do that, but right now I just want to hold on, because I think if interest rates drop down, the value is going to go up of that property. So, I want to save it for a big apartment complex, maybe like a 30, 40 unit apartment complex, or like a move that I could do if I just don't want to work anymore is I just can sell that one, pay the capital gains tax, or I can do real estate professional status and cost seg, or I can materially participate in a property to get some losses to offset the capital gains from the sale of this home, because I didn't live in it as a primary for the past 5 years. Or I could move into it and live in there for like 2 years, and then I can write off like $500,000 in capital gains tax. So let's say I have $800,000 profit. If I live in there for 2 years as a primary, I can write off $500,000. I have $300,000 I pay long-term capital gains tax on. But if I can buy a property that cost seg, it can offset that $300,000, right? So there's a tax scheme that you could play to like make that work. So I can take that and then just pay off this house and then my primary residence, and I'll basically wipe out my $5,500 a month mortgage, right? So like that's more of a lifestyle move, right? Like if I just wanted to like not work anymore and just do YouTube and do real estate full time and entrepreneur full time, that's the move I would do, right? If I don't mind working and I want to like optimize myself for like real estate, yes, it would make sense to sell that 1031 exchange that into a bigger apartment complex. So what I would do is I would do a reverse 1031 exchange. Like, so I would actually have the property, buy it, close on it, and then after I close on it, then I would sell my property, um, and then put that money into the intermediary to then cover the reverse 1031 exchange. So, but the only downside of the reverse is you have to front the money first. But the beauty is that you're not forced to buy a bad deal, because if I sell my home first, single family home, I have 6 months to identify the property 1031 exchange. I may not find a good deal and end up having to pay capital gains tax, or I buy a bad deal to because I'm up against the wall. I'd rather buy the property first, put the money up front, right, and then sell my property. Because I know I can sell my single family home pretty fast, right? In California, like it's a lot faster to sell my single family home than it is to find a property to 1031 exchange into. So that's just kind of like my thoughts with that. So, like I said, if I hit it big somehow on YouTube or something, and I can pay off my primary, great. That's something I want to do. Like, ideally, the fastest way for me to do it is just to sell one of my rentals, use that equity, 800,000, pay off my loan, 800,000. Boom, I'm done, right? Don't have to work or be forced to work W-2. So, that's the two routes I'm thinking about. I'm sort of leaning towards just sell it and pay off my primary, just because I think, I know it's a bad investment move, but it's just more sleep well at night. And, there's a certain peace of mind of having no mortgage, right? And know that you can take all this risk. Because, I invest in real estate ultimately for freedom and freedom to do what I want. So to me, a sense of freedom is paying off my house. And once that house is paid off, like, what I'm probably gonna do is I'm probably gonna pull a HELOC on it, right? Get a HELOC. Let's say my house is worth $1 million. I do a HELOC and they allow me to do 70%. Well, I have a $700,000 HELOC that I could use for like quick money, right? If I need to like do a fix and flip, if I want to buy a property where I'm gonna do the BRRRR, right? So, like I was talking earlier, where I can do a new construction BRRRR, where if I buy a new construction property in Alabama and let's just say they sell it for 330, okay, well, I could buy it for $300,000 cash. I'll use my line of credit to pay for it cash, right? And then I already got a $30,000 discount, and then these usually appraise at like, let's say 350. So I bought a $30,000 discount. It appraised $20,000 higher, so that's $50,000 of equity. So I can get a loan on this where it's like 80% loan to value or 75% loan to value, and then I can pull out most of my money, pay off my line of credit, leave money in the deal, and hopefully that deal will cash flow well enough, right? But this is assuming your interest rate's gonna have to be a bit lower and a bit more competitive to make it work, right? Or for like creative financing as well. So that's something that I've been considering and thinking about as well, right? So I would pay my primary, but I would still have a HELOC, and my intent would be whatever property I'm buying should be able to kind of cover the cost of the HELOC, or I have other cash from other real estate to cover that HELOC, right? So I'm still going to leverage in that way, right? So I think that's the best way to do it, but because like you said, like, we always need a place to live, and there's a cost to doing business in California. So it would be a bad investment, but hey, peace of mind. You can't put a price on peace of mind, right? And having a mortgage, if I lose everything, well, at least, like, I would sell off my rentals and I would at least still have my house to live in, right? That's paid off and minimal cost. So, but like I said, I ideally don't want to sell a property, but I don't have to, right? Like, the longer I can keep onto it, I know I'm gonna make more money, because rents will go up over time, principal pay down, appreciation over time. If interest rates go down, the value will go up, right? So the longer I can hold on to it, the better it is for me. I locked in, 3.125% interest rate, which is, I probably won't see that again. So, like, yeah, it's great to like buy and hold. So that's kind of my mentality for that. So, like I said, it gives me those options. And, once you own rentals, it gives you a lot of options, right? Like you said, to kind of track back to this, sorry for my side tangent there, but like, yeah, I would find a way to just keep those rentals. And then, you know, try to finance that property in New York. Or I would question, like, why not just scale in Philadelphia, right? Like, it's probably cheaper to rent in New York than it is to pay a mortgage in New York, like, just like it is in California. Like, My house, I'm paying $7,500 a month to live in this house. I can rent something equivalent to this for maybe $4,000, which is like half the cost, right? I don't have to worry about any repairs and any of that stuff. If I repair, I just put in a request, right? And then the apartment will take care of it. So like you can live and rent a nice place in New York, and then whatever money you have, you just can invest it to grow your Philadelphia real estate portfolio. Because obviously you have an unfair advantage there. You own a few rentals. I'm assuming you have a property manager. You know the area. You have a contractor. You have a handyman. You know what the rents are. Like, why not scale? Like, just like me buying more in Oklahoma. Like, why would I go to Tennessee? Why would I go to Georgia? Right? It's easier for me to buy in Alabama. It's easy for me to buy in Oklahoma. It's easy for me to buy in California. Problem with California is I don't cash flow. Right? So, like, why not just buy another apartment in Oklahoma? Buy another single family home in Alabama and just continue to scale that. Right? Like, why not just buy more single family homes in Philadelphia or trade up to multifamily in Philadelphia? Right? Like buy a 5-plex, a 6-plex, a 10-plex, right? If you want to do that, I can help you, right? Do that and get off market deals. So to me, I'm like, why not just scale? Like, why go to New York, right? Unless it's for yourself, right? Unless it's for your primary residence. But like I said, it's gonna be hard if you're making $8,000 a month. Not sure if you have another spouse income, but 8,000, it's gonna be hard to qualify for a loan for $1 million property, right? At these interest rates today. Like I struggled to qualify for a loan, right? And I make, 3, 4 times that much. Plus I have my cash flow from my real estate. So like to me, I'm like, just you already have an unfair advantage in Philadelphia. Like just keep on buying there. And then, or if your Philadelphia properties are cash flowing well, maybe you're able to pull a HELOC on one of them or two of them, and then use that to go buy another property in Philadelphia, right? So there's many ways to skin the cat. So that's how I would go about it. But if it's like for different reasons, like maybe you're sick of managing your properties, they're in bad areas, maybe you don't like the headache of real estate, and maybe you just want to like 1031 exchange that and into your primary residence in New York, what I would do is just continue renting, 1031 that, take the money, 1031 exchange it into that property, and then rent it out for a couple months, live in an apartment, and then move into it. And then basically you did a 50% down payment, right? So I don't know what your full situation is, but like those are the two options I can think of. If you want to buy more real estate, just scale there in Philadelphia, buy more. You have unfair advantage. Keep on doing it. Buy multifamily there, right? Step up to the next level. But if you want to get out of real estate because you don't like it, it's not for you, and you want to buy a primary residence in New York, like I said, just find a property that you would want to live in, treat it like a 1031 exchange into a rental property. Once the 1031 exchange is done, earnestly try to like rent it out. And if it doesn't work out, then you move into it yourself. And there you go. That's how you get a house, right? For yourself, well, 50% down. So now your loan's gonna be about $500,000, and maybe at that point you'll qualify, right, based on your income. So that's kind of my thought process behind that. So I would say overall, it's when you own real estate, it gives you a lot of options, which is what I like about it. Like I'm built up my putting the sweat equity, putting the time, putting the work, and now I have options, right? Like I said, with my first single family home, I could just keep it, do nothing, let it appreciate over time. I could sell it, pay out my primary residence, not have to work anymore, or I can 1031 exchange that into like a 30, 40 unit apartment complex if I want to scale. Like I have 3 options, and I feel privileged to have all 3. Like, to be honest, I feel very privileged to have all 3 options. So, that's the point of compounding interest and patience, right? Like, I'll do a video on it, but like my net worth went up by like $1.2 million in 2024. I did absolutely nothing. I just worked. I just worked my W-2 job. I didn't buy more real estate. I bought this primary residence here. And it's because of compound interest, right? I own like all my single family homes appreciated this year, right? My stock portfolio just went up this year. I didn't do anything. I just went to work, right? I took home like $250,000, after taxes. Maybe I'm taking home like, I don't know, like 180 or 170. And I just bought this home, and I'm investing my money into like, 401ks and back into life insurance, and then, IRAs. Like I haven't bought real estate outside of this primary residence here. So, like I did absolutely nothing. So like, there's nothing wrong with just sitting in your properties and letting compound interest do its thing, right? Like if you own it for like 30 years, it'll be paid off, and you have a bunch of paid off properties, and that could be your retirement right there. I'm sure if you have like 3 or 4 rentals I don't know, let's say it's 2,000 bucks each. Maybe in like 20 years, it'll be like 4,000 in rent. I don't know. Times that by three, that's 12K a month gross. Is that enough to retire? It could be. So, for me, I always, like you said, try to like keep my properties as long as possible. Especially if you locked in low interest rates, and just find a way to buy these deals, creative finance, low money down, of portfolio lenders. There's ways to do it, right? You just got to get a little creative, and be around people who are doing it. So that's just kind of like my 2 cents. So, anyways, sorry for the long rant. I love to talk and share and get very passionate about it. But if you want to learn how to buy multifamily real estate with some guidance, check out the mentorship program down below. Otherwise, please like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what questions you have. I'd love to answer your questions, and I hope to see you in the next one. Thank you so much.